Hey, I'm Scott, and I'm an American in Bangkok, and I got a letter. Uh, this one comes from a guy who wants to know about a particular hospital, and that hospital happens to be a hospital that I am pretty familiar with. The name of the hospital is Vejthani Hospital. Vejthani is spelled Vejthani. It's pronounced Vejthani because of how Thais pronounce the letter V here and the way that it's spelled in Thai. Anyway, this question says, I saw your medical tourism video. It's great. Wanted to ask you if you've heard of Vejthani Hospital. Is it decent? So I wrote him back and told him that I would do a little video about this. And he says his wife prefers the healthcare system in Thailand to the United States, unless you're talking about something serious like cancer, which actually, from what I know, from the people that I know who have had cancer here, they've had, well, I don't know, but you could say they've had good experiences because it is cancer, but they've had positive experiences as far as how they were treated by the medical personnel in these hospitals. I've personally done physical checkups at Bumrungrad and colonoscopy and endoscopy at Bangkok Hospital. It was only $1,500 as opposed to Northwestern Chicago, where I'm from. You're looking at $8,000, and after your insurance covers everything, $3,000. Even my cardiologist at Northwestern recommends Bangkok Heart Hospital. When my father died, we visited him at Rama Tibot Hospital at a public hospital, and as a public hospital, I think they did a pretty good job. By the way, uh, uh, you need to do a video on this topic. I am sick and tired of reading posts from foreigners who complain about this and that. They complain about the increased immigration scrutiny. They complain about the quarantine, the food, the fact you cannot drink alcohol during the quarantine, etc. Yes, Thailand has changed, but rules are rules. Well, yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying as far as to the second part. I'll get into the first part of this question in a moment because it's a little more detailed, needs a few more details. But as far as the people complaining here, this is what people do, and I'm guilty of it as well. I mean, there are a lot of positive things here, but there are also negative things. And when you live here long enough, you don't view it as somebody else's country. You view it as your own. You view it as your home, and thus you're going to complain. Things are going to happen. The increased immigration scrutiny, I don't really complain about that too much. Yeah, it can be a hassle sometimes, and I don't always understand it. But in the end, it seems like most of the people who complain are the ones who can't abide by um, the guidelines set forth by immigration. Um, and over the years, that yes, the guidelines have changed, the goalposts have moved, but that's the way it goes. And generally, if you're in at a certain time, that's where you're at. They grandfather you. Let's say 30 years ago, it was 200,000 baht for a retirement visa, and you've kept up with that stay of extension on the retirement visa year after year after year, and you've never missed the extension, and then they say, oh, now it's going to be 20 million baht. Well, we know it's not what it is, but it's 800,000 now for retirement. But if they raise it to 800,000, generally the way that it works is you are grandfathered. You will only pay 200,000 because that's what you've been paying, and they're not going to raise it for you. Somebody new will have to pay the new rate. Okay. So as far as the immigration scrutiny goes, I've only had, and I've said this before, I've only had really one instance where I wasn't happy about the way that immigration dealt with me. But maybe it was a guy who's having a bad day. I don't know. They complain about the quarantine. Well, I don't know what to say about that because at this point with the virus, I think they should let more people in and maybe have a less strict quarantine, not as lengthy of a quarantine. But I'm not a scientist. I'm not a virologist. I'm not a doctor. So what do I know? The food. Well, the food in the quarantine, from what I've been told, and the fact that you cannot drink alcohol, I don't know that that's really true, because I do know a couple of people who have said they've been able to get some beer and been able to drink. But as far as the food goes, yes, I've heard that the food is horrible or it is not very good. And, this is kind of like if you go to a bad hotel and you're going to have a breakfast buffet at that hotel, a lot of the time the buffet is garbage. It's really not good. If I was to say anything about the Thai food, generally Thai food is excellent wherever you go. It's expected to be excellent. However, if you go to certain hotels, their breakfast buffets are not very good. That's probably the most consistent thing about bad food in Thailand, is that usually is at some cheap hotel. All right. Thailand has changed, but rules are rules. Yes, rules are rules. And, when they say don't overstay, that means don't overstay. It doesn't mean, well, I felt like I had a good reason. No, there is no good reason. You don't overstay. That's the law. You don't do it. It's kind of like, well, I needed some money, so I went and robbed that bank. No, that doesn't make it acceptable. All right, so now let's get to Vejthani Hospital. I've had quite a bit of experience at Vejthani. Generally, it is considered a top-notch hospital. I was there about 20 years ago when, before they had expanded and added all kinds of equipment and upgraded their hospital. Thinking about the hotel with bad food. And I got to say that in the very beginning, it was one of those places where I was like, you know what, I'll go there for a cold. I'll go there, if I sprain my ankle or something like that, but I'm not going to go there for anything serious. Now, I've taken boxers there to get CAT scans. I've taken my son there to get a procedure done. Both of my sons actually have been there for dengue fever. I've been there for various surgeries. And all in all, I can say that the care is quite good. I've gone through rehab on my knee and my foot in their physical therapy department, and it was fantastic. It was great. It was relatively inexpensive at the time. Prices have gone up. And Vejthani is not a cheap hospital. It's not one of those places where you're going to go in. You may think, oh, wow, this is cheap compared to home. But when it comes to other hospitals in Thailand, it's a bit more expensive. And you need to watch the bill. You need to watch what's being done with the bill. If you get a quote and they tell you it's $300,000 and they give you something that's $304,300 or something like that, you can understand that. But if they give you something and then all of a sudden, like $300,000 and then it's $400,000, you're like, hey, wait a minute. You quoted me $300,000 and nothing extraordinary happened. If you have something that happened during the surgery or whatever, I can understand that. So you need to watch them, and I don't know that that's really indicative of anything necessarily in Thailand as opposed to medical care in many countries, or it's similar, where they're going to try to get you for as much as they can. If you have insurance, what I found in Vejthani is my insurance had covered everything for the most part, but the bill was just slightly higher than what the insurance covered. So it was almost like, hey, let's get the most out of the insurance company that we can, and he has to pay a little bit, but it wasn't much. Instead of being $5,000, which my insurance would cover, it was like 5,130 baht. I don't know what the reasoning is behind that. I don't know if that's just how it really would have worked out. I really don't know, but it just seemed like several times I've had to deal with those kind of things. And the last time when I was in the hospital where I had my gallbladder removed, and I also had bile duct surgery twice. Most of the errors or the problems have to do with the administration end. Once when my son went in for a procedure, I said, how much is it going to be? It'll be 7,000 baht. Then it was like 10,000, something like that. And I said, well, I'm not paying 10,000. There was nothing happened that was out of the ordinary. Everything went as planned. And now you're telling me it's almost 50% more than what you quoted me. This is not how it works. And I had to sit there and wait and wait and wait and wait. And finally they came back and they said, oh, your insurance is going to cover it all. So I was like, okay. But, had I had to pay for it, I would have been complaining. Another time, I think it was the last time I was in, I was there. They said, we can do surgery tonight. We need a payment. I said, okay. We got the payment to him. And then that night, I was waiting and waiting and waiting. The doctor had gone home or something, and they weren't bringing him back. I said, okay. The next day, the same thing happened. They wanted another payment. We gave them the payment. And then the doctor, I don't know if the doctor was stuck or what happened, but I could. So I was in there for 2 days, just sitting there waiting. And they had told me when I went in that I was going to have surgery that night. Now, yeah, I stayed in the hospital. They made me comfortable. But I was in that hospital for 2 days. Really, it was 2.5 days before I had surgery. And I was like, hey, you could have gave me some medicine and told me, you can go home and come in for the surgery at this time. And, I wouldn't have to go through all this. So I had to basically negotiate with them about the price. And they had given me a discount. They originally used to give me a discount because they used to have something called the VIP card there, which supposedly is now only for Thais. They gave me and my family the VIP cards. And then one day they said, sorry, no more VIP. We can't renew it for you. And I said, well, my family is Thai. And I think that's being that I've come here for 10 years or whatever it was at the time, you should renew the card. So they got a manager, and the manager said, okay, yes, we will. The next year, they said, nope, sorry, can't do it. I said, okay. They gave me a discount when I went the last time and for the surgery. And I believe I still had the card at this time. So they would have that card just expired a couple of years ago. But I had this 15% discount off of, you get 15% discount off of certain things on the bill. So they gave me the 15%, and I negotiated with them, and they said, okay, we'll work it out. I said, okay. So then I get the bill, and it was still with 15% discount on it, and I said, this 15% discount, this is just like what I normally get. Oh, so then they gave me 20%. I said, you're giving me an extra 5% of what I normally get. That's not going to cut it. So I had to go in front of a whole room full of people and negotiate it, tell them exactly what happened. And one thing I will say, if you're going to go into, not just Vejthani Hospital, because I don't think they did really anything intentionally. I think it just kind of, things just didn't work out right. If you're going to talk about a bill or you want to find out things, you want to make things sure that things are run smoothly with your procedure or procedures or whatever's going on with you, speak with the person who's the hospital coordinator, who coordinates everything between the departments. Now, that's something I could have done. That was my fault. Okay? So, all in all, I would say, by all means, use Vejthani Hospital. Just, be a little careful when it comes to the bill. Another thing that happened when you remember that a lot of people, when they're getting out from the hospital, they don't feel good. Like in my case, I'd had surgery a couple days previously. I still didn't feel good. I was all hopped up on like morphine and fentanyl, and I was not in a great mood. And then it's okay. We think you can go home, and we're gonna wean you off all this. Yeah, okay. So I was, not in the greatest state. And then they said, "How are you gonna pay?" I said, "Well, my credit card." And they said, "Okay." They come upstairs. They ran my card, and they said, "Sorry, it doesn't work." Now, I knew absolutely that the funds were there and that it should work. And so I said, well, I think maybe you made a mistake. So I went online, I looked, and sure enough, they had deducted the money, but they were using an old, processor that apparently they, what do they do? They verify the amounts, they authorize the amount, the funds, and then they go and they take the funds out. Well, they authorized the full amount, which was, I don't remember how much it was. It was something like $8,000. And so I didn't have another $8,000 in the account, so it didn't go through. That's what happened. So then they said, okay, I tell you what, they knew me, and they said, you come back. And I said, okay. I went back, and then they said, well, there was a problem with the machine again. And it turned out there was a problem with the Wi-Fi or something, so it didn't go through. And then, it was just a hassle. So I would say sometimes these things happen. And, you just got to expect that there might be some issues. On the whole, they did a good job, and they cared about how I felt and if I was well, if I was going to be okay. They did care, and they took the time and all that kind of thing. The doctors were good. The nurses were good. I didn't have any real issues with that. Administratively, things were a little more scattered, and they weren't quite as smooth as you'd like. And especially when you're in the hospital, like when my kid was in the hospital, he didn't feel good, and he's in there, and they're telling you one price when they had just told you 2 hours before it was going to be another price. So they're changing the price. My kid wants to go home. He's sitting there miserable, feels like, he just wants to go home and go to sleep. And so, these are kind of things that happen at hospitals, but it would be nice if these things would just kind of flow. And I will say that I've been to this hospital, this Vejthani hospital. I've been going there for about 15 years, 20 years, something like that. And the majority of transactions that I've had have been fairly smooth. But once in a while, you got to be prepared that there will be some issues. And I would say, get your quote in writing. Make sure that, that is an out-the-door quote. Not, well, it's going to be this much more for doctors and that. We're not sure yet. And, try to pin them down as well as you can. And, that's not always possible. But, you got to look out for yourself, because if they can get some extra money out of you, they will. They may not be doing it intentionally, but if your bill is an extra $500 because you didn't check the bill over very well, and you just went, I don't care, I'll pay it. Well, then you're going to pay that extra money, and you may not have to if you just go, hey, wait a minute. I was told that this would only be $150 or whatever it is, So that's what I got to say about Vejthani. It is considered one of the better hospitals in Bangkok. Apparently, there's about 500 inpatient beds. It's 12 stories high. There's more than 300 specialists across a wide range of specialties, ranging from cosmetic surgeries to tertiary care. It's got a great orthopedics department. Now, I will say this. I had my hip replaced, 4 or 5 years ago. And I asked my wife to call up and get a price. And they said it was like $350,000. I called up and got a price, and they said it was like $450,000. And so then I called up again, and I said, listen, at the time I had a VIP card. I said, I've got this VIP card. You're supposed to give me Thai pricing. We've already went over this. I already know what the deal is because I've spoke to the people who are in charge about this because of the VIP card. And you gave me the price for hip surgery as like 450,000 baht. Oh, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. No. My wife called and the price was 350,000. Oh, maybe it was different. And I said, no, it wasn't different. Because I was sitting right there. I know exactly what she asked. So you're telling her it's 100,000 cheaper. So there are multiple pricing tiers, and you need to check and see if you're getting the best price. If it matters to you. It mattered to me, and I ended up going to Chiang Mai, and it was like 300,000, and maybe 320 for airfare for like me and my wife, hotel room for like 2 nights. It was like 320,000 baht, and it was an excellent facility. The doctor was excellent, and so it pays to shop around. Now, they were established in 1994, so I guess when I started going there, they had been open for about 6 to 8 years, something like that. Each year, the hospital serves over 300,000 international patients. All the hospitals that are big hospitals here, are well-known hospitals, and that foreigners go to, like Bumrungrad. They like this Joint Commission of International Accreditation, ISO 9001, and Thailand Hospital Accreditation. And I guess that's something that's fairly important. I had never heard of it until I started going into hospitals in Thailand. But, there are a lot of good hospitals in Thailand. Obviously, Bumrungrad is one of the big ones. Bangkok General, Yanhee. There's, a Mission Hospital. Samitivech. What's the other one? The one on Rama 9. So there are quite a few hospitals, and it really depends on what you're going in for, which hospital you go to. But generally, Vejthani is going to be great. Bumrungrad will be great, but they'll be a little pricey, So, anyway, I hope that answers all of your questions. For now, that's all I have. I'm Scott. I'm an American in Bangkok. Please leave a thumbs up if you'd be so kind. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe now. Click the notification bell if you want to be notified. And if you want to help support the channel in any way, you can just look down in the description. You can get 15% off all of the merch, all the shirts and coffee mugs if you just use the code Orwell. And what else? That's all. So, like I said, I'm Scott. I'm an American in Bangkok. Chok di, jerk en mai, lag jerk en mai. That's good luck, and until next time.